Brazil has football giants in its history: Argentina, Germany, France, Italy. But one of Brazil's weirdest World Cup problems is not one of the giants. It is Norway, a country Brazil almost never meets, a country with far less World Cup mythology, and somehow a country Brazil still cannot solve. In 2026, Brazil met Norway in a World Cup knockout match. Brazil had the bigger name, the bigger history, the bigger pressure. But Norway had the final moments. Holland scored twice late. Brazil answered too late. And Norway moved on with a 2-1 win. But this video is not about one upset. It is about why this upset felt strangely familiar. Before that match, Brazil had already played Norway 4 times, and Brazil had never beaten them. 2 draws, 2 defeats. For most countries, that would be a strange statistic. Against Brazil, it becomes something else. Because Brazil is not just another national team. Brazil is football mythology, and Norway is not supposed to be the country that interrupts it. The first World Cup wound came in 1998. Brazil were defending world champions. They had Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Bebeto, Cafu. They had already qualified from the group. Norway needed the result. Brazil led late. Then the game changed. Tore Andre Flo equalized. Kjetil Rekdal scored from the penalty spot. Norway won 2-1. And suddenly, a small northern country had written itself into Brazil's World Cup map. That is what makes this so strange. Brazil's famous rivals are easy to understand. Argentina is emotion. Germany is trauma. France is elegance and pain. Italy is tradition. Norway is different. Norway is not a classic rival. Norway is not a football empire. Norway is not always on Brazil's path. But when Norway appears, Brazil does not look comfortable. The pattern is not magic. It is football. Brazil wants rhythm, control, talent between the lines. A game that slowly bends toward imagination. Norway does not need to win that kind of game. Norway can stay compact, survive pressure, wait for the ball into dangerous space. And when the final moment comes, Norway does not need 10 chances. It needs one clean action. In 1998, it was the late turn. In 2026, it was Holland. Different eras, same kind of problem. So this is not just an upset story. It is a style story. Brazil's identity is built around the idea that talent eventually bends the game. Norway's answer is colder, simpler, more direct. The game does not need to be beautiful. It only needs to be decided. That is why this belongs on the football map, because maps are not only distance. A football map is also pressure, climate, culture, expectation, identity. Brazil carries the weight of being Brazil every time it enters a World Cup. Norway carries something different. Less noise, less mythology, less fear of the shirt. When those two worlds meet, the pressure is not equal. Brazil has to explain every failure. Norway only has to create one impossible night. And now Norway has something it did not have in 1998. A global striker. A player built for the exact kind of game Brazil hates. Holland does not need the match to belong to him for 90 minutes. He can disappear from the screen, then decide the story. That is terrifying against a team like Brazil, because Brazil can spend the whole match trying to control football. and still lose the one moment that matters. For Brazil, this kind of defeat hurts differently. Losing to a giant can be explained. Losing to a rival can become part of history. But losing to Norway creates a different question. How can the biggest World Cup nation keep failing against a country outside the usual football mythology? That is why this result will not disappear quickly. It connects 1998 to 2026. It turns a statistic into a story. Brazil's weirdest problem is not that Norway is better than Brazil. That is not the point. The point is that football does not always respect size, or history, or mythology. Sometimes, a country with less noise finds the exact weakness in a country with more pressure. And for Brazil, Norway has become that country. Not the biggest rival, not the loudest rival, maybe not even a true rival, but one of the strangest problems on Brazil's World Cup map. So what do you think? Is Norway becoming Brazil's weirdest World Cup opponent? Or is this just football's strangest coincidence?